Hello and welcome to this round 4 of Grand Prix Brussels, and we have an interesting little mirror match on our hands here. Jiří Obraz is against the number 9th ranked player in the world. He was a champion, a World Championship finalist, Javier Dominguez. Both these players on Grixis mid-range. So Grixis mid-range, it's got a lot of different ways of interacting with the opponent. It can obviously use the regular sort of red and black base removal you might see. It's also got access to counter magic as well. So early turns of this game, I'm not really expecting to see too much from either of these players, but once they start deploying threats, those threats could be pretty substantial.
Siphoner, clean sleeve Siphoner is the turn 2 of choice for both players, but it was not in either player's hand.
So we can see Javier Dominguez, he has got Champion of Wits in hand here, but choosing to keep his mana up, at least for now, so he can interact with whatever goes on from the other side of the battlefield. Yeah,
you don't want to tap out against Grixis mid-range when they have 4 mana, especially if you have a counter in hand to counter Nicol Bolas. Nicol Bolas would be, even if you have something to kill it, it would still be a 2-for-1 since Nicol Bolas' Ravenous Rat ability.
So sometimes the discard is enough. The first play of the game here in Champion of Wits, still with 3 mana up here. I like that play.
Oh, is Nicol Bolas Ravenous Rats on steroids?
Oh yeah, the Ravenous Rats, they broke into the cupboard. They found all of the things needed to pump themselves all the way up to 4/4. Discarding Scarab God and a Braid there to Champion of Wits. First threat on the battlefield. And Champion of Wits, the fact that it's got the ability to come back from the graveyard as well, uncounterably potentially useful in the end. But there you see those big old Ravenous Rats themselves. Nicol Bolas the Ravager,
the rat tail.
4/4.
It's a rat. He has a rat tail. That's it.
The Ratager. The first threat of the game is dealt with quite nicely there. Vraska's Contempt, exiling Champion of Wits. That's where you want to send Champion of Wits if you can, not have to worry about that one coming back from the graveyard. Yeah,
this matchup is a little grindy. So not having to deal with the Eternalize from the Champion of Wits is a good thing.
Yeah, it's funny. We've seen a few matches in our feature match area going long in terms of time. The fact that we've been able to just breeze through these first 6 turns or so quickly, a bit of a refreshing change of pace. Argyle's Bloodfast coming down there for Dominguez. That one will be gigantic.
A huge play since there's no threat on Jiří's side of the board. Javier is going to take a lot of advantage from this Bloodfast. He's going to draw a lot of cards.
So Obraz here firing off Liliana, hopeful it will get into play, but ultimately that hope dashed by Supreme Will. Not enough mana to pay for that one.
It's the new take on Necropotence. Necropotence was Greed was the first card that let black mages draw cards for life in exchange for life.
When we look at Argyle's Bloodfast compared to Greed, the fact that it transforms, the fact that it only costs 2 to cast, this is a very, very powerful card, and this specific matchup, or this type of matchup, is exactly where it's at its best.
Greed was only 1 black mana to activate, but it costs 4 to cast, and this is too much already for Jiří, who can't keep up with the pace.
Yeah, it's interesting. That concession looks very, very premature, but you know what? This is the kind of match where
he's not coming back.
Yeah, like he's going to be so far behind on cards. Dominguez having access to Azcanta, having access to Argyle's Bloodfast. They're about on parity on mana, so having those extra cards is just gigantic. And a tactical choice to end the game a little bit early there means that essentially we've got almost the entire round in order for Obraz to try and string 2 wins together and make it out of this match alive.
The thing is, I've seen the last matches with Turbo Fog, and people on Twitch were saying, "Oh, this is so long. Why are we showing this?" The thing is, they shouldn't be that long. I've played the Pro Tour. There were 60 minutes in each round, and I finished each round with more than 20 minutes on the clock. The thing is, at the Grand Prix, people do not recognize when they're dead, when they've lost. At the Pro Tour, after 2 turns, they recognize the pattern of them not winning ever, and that you're going to be playing for the next 20 minutes. It's probably going to be the case in the later rounds of the Grand Prix, when if we see Turbo Fog, it's not going to last 15 minutes. After 10 minutes or 15 minutes, people will have the incentive to concede to play the other games. Maybe the last game, they will see, have 10 minutes to waste, and I will just enjoy the camera time. but really they shouldn't go that long because it's approximately a 0% fail rate as soon as you go off.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is that, thinking briefly about Turbofog before we get back to this matchup, it kind of works out that once you start going off, there are some people who will turn the corner faster to actually closing out games. Like, there are things that you can do with Nissa. You can choose to be a little bit more aggressive about how you close out games, but that takes a certain amount of confidence in the deck, understanding when you are safe to do so, that maybe the players on the Pro Tour had a bit more experience with.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that because Jiri conceded very early in the game, but people say never concede. There's always a chance. Well, this time not really. I mean, Javier is a very good player, and he will not let his advantage slip that easily. And conceding now, giving you 45 minutes to play 2 other games, you probably have more chances to, win the match. That's just keep playing and losing in agonizing fashion.
Yeah, I mean, if Obraz was going to win that game 1, obviously it's possible, but not super likely.
It's pretty unlikely, as in not even 1%.
So, in that weird 1 in a million shot, or 1 in 100 shot, I guess, of him winning that game 1, it wasn't going to be a quick game.
No.
And letting that game go on longer and then not making it, he's burning through a lot of the clock that he would ultimately need if he's going to lose game 1. So, also, he could see his entire hand. He knew what he had left in his deck to work with. It looks like a very Pro Tour concession, but probably actually quite a smart move.
No, but I like the topic. The topic never concede to me is I think people do not concede fast enough.
And it obviously depends a lot on matchup.
Of course. If you're not dead, you should not concede, but you should recognize when you've lost the game and you have no way to come back. I've done some early concession that I to this day regret. But that was maybe in 97.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that we did in 97.
Yeah, I was like, I should have. I had won the game. Why did I concede? But that probably was the last time. So
I mean, also this is game 1.
Yep.
When we're in game 3, suddenly the no concede thing
takes
on a very different aspect.
Oh, yeah, there's no reason to concede game 3. I agree with that. But in game 1, there are a few reasons to do that.
So tap lands coming down first on turn 1 for each of these players simply makes sense. Not too much interaction that can happen on turn 1. Turn 2 is the first turn that we might see something in Glintsey's Siphoner, and we do see that from Javier Dominguez here. He's got 1 energy from that Ether Hub, some more energy from the Siphoner. Cut to Ribbons, dealing with the first creature that came down. Cut, one of the nice removal spells in this matchup because it does do enough damage that you're able to even deal with some of the bigger threats that are coming from Grixis.
Yeah, Javier going back and forcing his deck choice.
Yeah?
Yeah, he didn't exactly know what to play. He was like, oh, should I play Turbofog? Should I play green? Should I play red-black? I didn't even know what he was going to play at the end.
Yeah, I was talking to Martin User in some of the buy rounds about his deck choice, and he said that he was very, very close indeed to playing Grixis mid-range at the Pro Tour. Duress here coming from Dominguez. He sees Nicol Bolas alongside Gonti, Torrential Gearhulk, and Champion of Wits. Vraska's Contempt was the card that got taken away. This is just Javier making sure that he's clear on everything that's left so he doesn't get surprised in later turns.
It's a pretty good hand if he draws a land.
Yeah. More Siphoners, though, from Dominguez. And Dominguez knows that there's no answer in sight. So we got a bit of a different game on our hands here with players tapping out earlier on. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, coming along. He sees land, Liliana, and land. So that's going to be a relatively straightforward choice for him in terms of what to stick under that Gonti. Exiled, and he'll be able to cast it for the rest of the game.
Did he take a land?
I think he took Liliana.
Oh, Liliana, yeah. I didn't see that, actually. Yeah. So what if you take a Nicol Bolas? Can you transform it if you cast it?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a trivia for you.
We may get a chance to see Nicol Bolas' screen at some point. I'm not going to try and second guess that one. I feel like the transformation, it might return to play under its owner's control, which could end up very unfortunate.
Well, we'll have the answer
under his
enough.
owner's control. So yeah, you do not want to transform any Nicol Boluses that you steal with Gonti. Casting your own Nicol Bolas, though, that I will allow. The 4/4 legendary Elder Dragon coming into play, and it's going to force a discard immediately from Dominguez, assuming that it resolves. And Syncopate says not only will Nicol Bolas not resolve, it won't even go to the graveyard. Exiled forevermore.
Flavor-wise, I don't understand how that works. Nicol Bolas just transforms. Oh, no, sorry, I forgot. I remember now. He's my... that wizard is my rightful controller.
I mean, I can imagine Nicol Bolas feeling quite smug about watching someone make a mistake when he's around.
Oh, yeah, that could be.
Punishing hubris, maybe. Seems like a very Bolasian thing to do. Here comes Champion of Wits, though, from Obraz. That one resolving okay. Couple of cards drawn. Looks like the Elder Reborn might have been one of the pickups there.
It's a very heavy hand. So how many was that? 3 5 drops and 2 6 drops and no 6 land.
Discards 2 copies of Torrential Gearhulk there.
And there's a Liliana under Gonti, which is going to be pretty good because Jiri's going to be able to cast Liliana minus use her minus ability, bring back Gearhulk, and flashback a Rescue Contempt.
Yeah, that's a lot of value. I mean, I guess that if you're playing this matchup, you're not going to have too many turns until someone's got a lot of mana when they're casting multiple spells a turn. So just having big, powerful things that you're doing each and every turn may well be good enough. Glintsley Siphoner doing good work on both players' life totals and, of course, also generating cards for Dominguez.
That would be a great play on Obraz's side. If he draws a land.
Almost everything that's happening on Obraz's side of this battlefield is all about him drawing land right now.
Sorry, drawing an untapped land.
Yeah, that one actually not too straightforward for these 3-color decks.
That's a little late.
Yep. Underwhelming late game. Glintsley Siphoner meets an Essence Scatter.
I think this is one of the reasons this deck has fallen a little bit under the radar. Because it's so good in the late game, but it has a little it's a hard time stabilizing, and then I don't know, like being stuck with so many late game cards in hand. Once you get there, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah, I mean, imagine if Javier Dominguez had been playing just a straightforward red deck.
Well, this is after sideboard, of course.
It is true,
but yeah, U cards are very, very expensive. And you don't exactly ramp into them.
So Jurese has the option of the Eldest Reborn or Liliana, Death's Majesty. What Javier does not know is that even if he takes Liliana, there's another one lurking in the exiled zone, which he has had stolen from him. As things stand, it's going to be second verse, same as the first here for Obaz. Just needs to find that 5th land to really get anything going here.
Oh, here we go.
The Eldest Reborn. I like this one. So first up, making a sacrifice on a Planeswalker, then, oh sorry, creature in this case, then forcing some discard, and then finally putting something back from the graveyard.
It's interesting. Javier has a Gearhulk in hand, but the only counters he has in his graveyard are Syncopate and Essence Scatter. None of them counters the Eldest Reborn.
And after a little thought as to what creature to sacrifice, that Torrential Gearhulk only had a very brief dalliance with being on the battlefield. That was all with the Eldest Reborn ability on the stack.
The Saga is going to do a lot of work.
Yeah, it's any time that a Saga gets to stay in play, it generates a fair amount of advantage over the course of it's like a Planeswalker that has an upper limit on how many turns it gets to be in play.
Yeah, Liliana this turn, I can only imagine. Yep.
There she is.
Getting a Gearhulk back to flashback a Rescue Contempt. Do I have that right?
We're going to have a slightly easier to read die there on the battlefield.
Yep. And
you called it, Raf.
Yeah.
There we go. The final piece in the removal puzzle to make sure that there's only one person that gets to have non-land permanents on the battlefield anytime soon.
it was only Jiri was only one land away from doing all that a couple turns ago already.
And Javier has to face down the fact that next turn the Eldest Reborn is going to hit its third and final act. And that as well is going to be a very potent ability to get back another Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah, for what does he have? It
Not
doesn't
too
have
much.
much. Yeah, just a 5/6. Oh, he can get back Liliana, right?
He can? Yeah.
Is it creature or planeswalker or just creature?
It's creature or planeswalker.
Yeah. I think so. Oh, maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah, creature or
creature
planeswalker.
planeswalker, yeah. So he could get back the. Actually, Liliana would be a little better.
I mean,
there's no. The only difference. Oh no, he has already a Liliana in play. Never mind.
yeah, and resetting the counters doesn't do that much.
Yeah.
So here's where it gets interesting.
Well,
So
no, it wouldn't have mattered.
now there's
right.
Vraska's Contempt. So Obraz now kind of on the beatdown plan, I guess.
Yep.
We'll see how that works out for him. Gets to hit for 5 this turn, then potentially 10 next turn. Not quite the 17 that he needs, though. Scarab God will change that around just a touch.
Yeah.
Javier Dominguez, he picked up the first game win very, very quickly indeed. Still digging to try and find answers in this second game, and ultimately does scoop up his cards, makes sure to get back that copy of Torrential Gearhulk. The Liliana, of course, was briefly his. He needs to make sure that was in the correct graveyard, that everyone's got things sorted before they go into a game 3. But we've seen the different paces that this deck can move at. It's, while we've had Turbo Fog using up our entire rounds, last couple of rounds, half an hour to go still for our game 3 here between these mid-range decks.
Yeah, but again, this is also to their credits. These players are a little more experienced.
Yes.
And Javier's pace of play is blazing fast compared to what we've seen in the first rounds.
Yeah, and it's not just that he's approaching every situation, thinking through what the best option is, and then making that play all in the moment. Part of this is Javier's played a lot of games of Magic. He's got his sort of sets of heuristics, his rules of thumb already sorted for the easy turns. So the easy turns will go good and quick, and then the turns where he needs to spend a bit more time thinking, he's already saved that time earlier on. I mean, I've liked the way that Obraz has played this match thus far also. He did not have the run of the green in game 1, and honestly, if he'd missed one more land drop, he could have found himself in a lot of trouble in game 2 as well.
Yeah, Chris's mid range has a lot of swingy cards. Liliana has the potential of doing a lot of damage. If there's nothing on the board, you just build for the later game. You make a zombie, you fill your graveyard to get spells for Gearhulk, to have creatures to reanimate either with Liliana's own ability or with the Scarab God.
Yeah, this is one of, it must be said, quite a lot of decks at this point in Magic for which putting a few extra cards in the graveyard, it's not a cost, it's a benefit, because you have the potential at least to make the most of the fact that there's more cards in the graveyard.
It was pretty early when we realized that putting cards in the graveyard was I think it really started with Odyssey.
Yes.
With the Threshold. Where Milliken, you remember Milliken?
Oh, do I? I loved Milliken.
Milliken was a 0/1 for 2. You tapped it, you milled one card, and you added
one colorless
mana. At first, in other decks, in other formats, it would be like, oh no, I'm sacrificing a resource here. But in the format when having 7 cards in your graveyard meant you had Threshold and a boost for most of your cards, well, it made not sacrifice that.
Yeah, and these days, in Standard, in Modern, putting cards in your graveyard, assuming that you're not actually losing the game by getting decked, each card in your graveyard, it's not quite like, clearly it's not as good as drawing a card, but getting a whole bunch of cards in your graveyard can sometimes feel pretty close.
In Search of Azcanta.
Yeah.
Search for Azcanta is, if you put cards in your graveyard, you're happy to flip it, to transform it.
Yeah, we've had a whole lot of options. There you can see our feature match area. Some big names in there. Joao Chosa, who recently won a GP, back in the GP circuit again, up against Helmut Sommersberger. We have one of our Viren brothers.
Double or triple GP winner. Helmut. I think he's double GP winner. Maybe triple.
And then the Virens, of course, have not had to travel quite so far to get to this GP as many. Flying the flag for Belgian Magic. All right, we're on to our game 3 here with a little under 30 minutes left on the clock. Classic Island Go. It's been a good start since the history of Magic began. But on the other side of things, mana looking a little better with Drowned Catacomb on turn 1.
No black mana on Javier's side.
And a Duress comes down. We get to see how awkward that is. Arguel's Bloodfast. It would have been a fantastic thing to throw down on the second turn before defenses were up. And now, this hand from Javier Dominguez, it's going to need a little bit of help. There's no black mana available for that Duress.
There's no action either.
Jace's Defeat is... I mean, it's a good counter, but only for a subset of what Obraz has going on.
There we go. But there's no answer to Siphoner either. Well, there's no Siphoner here, but...
Not yet. So Vraska's Contempt is the card taken because all of the other ones are creatures. That's Gonti, Champion of Wits, and a Torrential Gearhulk left in hand, along with an island. So no red mana available for Obraz, but if I have to choose one color to be stuck on, I think red's the one that I choose in this matchup.
You don't really need the Harness Lightning if your opponent doesn't have a Siphoner.
Yeah, not so much. So as things stand, I would say both these hands need a little help, but Dominguez needing more.
Ober's hand has everything he needs. Has a Champion of Wits, so the help will be given. However, on Javier's side, just the draw step is the only way.
Yeah, this is going to be neither player getting too early action going.
Oh, wow.
Things got better for Javier. He found that Glint-Sleeve Siphoner. The fact that it's got Menace means that it's actually really fiddly to block in this sort of a matchup. And then, of course, drawing extra cards, exactly what every deck in the history of Magic should really be wanting to do.
Gonti.
Let's see what you could have won.
Can't be countered by Jace's Defeat. And that's what you want to see. You want to see your opponent tap 4 mana when you have a Jace's Defeat in hand.
Yeah,
you don't want them to play Gonti, but you want them to tap 4 mana. Oh, come on, come on. Run into my Jace's Defeat with your Nicol Bolas. Oh, never mind. No, just don't play this guy.
Yeah, the fact that there's been duresses on both sides means that the likelihood of that Jace's Defeat being good in the short term was comparatively low. Sooner or later, though, it may well find that it's going to be helpful, even though Obraz knows about it. At some point, you just had to pull the trigger on one of the big spells and force it out of your opponent's hand. All right, land drops being hit here by Obraz. That's step 1 for these mid-range decks.
And he has the Harness Lightning to deal with Siphoner.
Everyone gets some energy. And more land in hand alongside Torrential Gearhulk, so we'll be able to use Vraska's Contempt or Harness Lightning again, should he so need. No counter magic though, and the Scarab God, and I guess that the Vraska's Contempt will be enough to deal with it pretty shortly.
So Vraska's Contempt, is it what he took from Gonti? Yeah, I don't think.
Oh no, Javier has a Scarab God in hand.
Yeah, but what is going to take care of the Scarab God?
Torrential Gearhulk flashing back Vraska's Contempt.
But he doesn't have the 6 line, I think. Oh, Syncopate off Gonti.
Wow. Huge Syncopate sat there underneath Gonti. That's exactly this kind of bit of counter magic that you want against Scarab God. Get it fully out the game. You don't want anything naughty going on. And then a Doomfall. Oh, I like this drawer from Obraz quite a bit here.
Wow.
He finds himself against a World Championship finalist, but he's getting the cards to mean that he's able to make a real fight here. It doesn't matter that he's got this Jace's Defeat, a sideboard card that is a strict upgrade for him after sideboarding, that because Obraz knows about it, Obraz has the lands and spells to work with, that he doesn't need to put himself in that kind of harm's way. He throws out a Champion of Wits here, and you saw his face there. He looked at his opponent and said, Do you want to counter this one?
That's a mildly blue spell. Can
Yeah.
you go for it?
Maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm offering you this value. Champion of Wits. The Eternalize on it, potentially very useful in this sort of a matchup where games have got the potential to go long. And the Eternalize ability, that's an ability on the card rather than casting the spell. So from the graveyard, uncounterable.
You can't disallow it.
True.
Is it? Yeah. So yeah, it is technically counterable because it's counter.
Yeah, you can't counter it with spells that say counter target spell unless those spells also say counter target ability. Thanks for keeping me honest there.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm always the fun police here.
Duress coming along here, taking that Jace's defeat, leaving 2 copies of Vraska's Contempt in hand for Javier Dominguez. I mean, at least that means that he's going to be able to gradually win back this board. But he's running out of gas a little bit here, just playing Dragon Cell Summit for the turn, so
Yeah,
Obraz knows exactly what he's working with here.
Is that another? Is that a Scarab God?
I believe so.
Running into the Vraska's Contempt. Yeah, doesn't matter. I have more gas.
Yep, he's got a creature in play and more cards in hand. It had to be a big draw from Dominguez, and that turn it was Canyon Slough, then just cycling it into another land. It's not going to take too terribly many turns of Dominguez not finding anything here for him to pick up his first loss in the tournament, in his first round of the tournament, because Javier Dominguez, he did have 3 buys.
If Obraz doesn't draw a land, the Gearhulk is pretty much dead in hand. Well, if he does, that's another story. A Doomfall. Yep.
Yeah, Obraz essentially knows that he doesn't really need to worry about what's in Dominguez's hand just yet. All right, Argyle's Bloodfast.
It's a pretty good draw here.
12 life, enough to work with that he is going to be able to do some digging.
It's actually exactly what he needed to. If he wanted to come back in this game, that's what he needed. He needed a way to
actually get ahead on cards a little bit.
Because there's so much gas in Obraz's hand. Land Siphoner.
And the duress will be helpful at some point. Ooh.
Is there a Champion of Wits in Javier's graveyard?
Not quite sure. If there is, it's lurking just up top where we can't quite see it. Vraska's Contempt continues to clear a path so that Obraz can make sure that there won't be too terribly many more activations of that Argyle's Bloodfast.
Also, he doesn't want Javier to chump block. Like at 8 life, Javier is going to draw less cards from the Bloodfast.
All right, now Liliana comes along, brings back Lindsay Siphoner. Obraz just looking to close the door before this Argyle's Bloodfast can really get too much going. Going to 6 life, that much is easy. This next activation, though, that does mean that there would be a lethal set of attackers on the other side of things.
Liliana by far the best reanimate spell in a while in standard.
It's been a little bit of time.
Well, the last ones were all 5 mana sorceries. So Liliana is...
She's a 5 mana sorcery with upside.
With upsides. I think one of the best ones lately was bring back a dragon and put 1 or 2 +1/+1 counters on it. That was one of the best ones in the last couple sets.
I mean, the Eldest Reborn is a pretty reasonable reanimate spell as long as you're willing to wait around on it. Doomfall here coming along to clear a path, though, for Obraz. His attacks now mean that Javier Dominguez, well, he gets to transform that Argyle's Bloodfast, but that on its own, cold comfort here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty hard here.
There is the handshake. Dominguez, little smile on his face. If he's going to lose, at least he's losing to the same deck that he chose to play, so he knows that he made a good choice at some point today. So we've seen a fair amount of Grixis Control in our feature match area thus far. A deck that I didn't really get a chance to see very much of at the Pro Tour at all. It looked like people were pretty much sticking to their lanes of, if we like aggro, there's a great aggro deck in the format. If we've got the memo about there being a cool interesting control deck. We got it, but also regular control. As things stand, though, we're going to get more Magic for you soon enough, right after these messages. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Brussels. I'm Tim Willoughby, this is Raphael Levy, and we are covering Standard here in Belgium. Now we've already had a chance to see a little bit of Grixis on Grixis action. We're going to be heading back down to our feature match area for a little bit of time walk. So here we see a matchup, a little bit different, but a very important one for this format. On the left of our screen, Helmut Sommersberger, he's on red-black Chain Whirler, so one of our classic aggro decks. He's up against Joao Chosa, who's playing Turbo Fog. Now, this is a matchup that I've heard characterized a lot of different ways by different players. How good is this matchup for the Turbo Fog player?
So I would say your favorite if you're on the Turbo Fog side, but not a huge favorite. So it really depends on how many sideboard cards they draw after game one. Game one, you should be favorite, unless they have the super aggro, the aggro draw, and you don't draw your Teferi / Fog. For example, here, if Joao has a Fog in hand, we saw that he has one. It's probably this game is not going to take too long. After board, it becomes a little bit complicated to play around Duress and against Doomfall. It's about the same thing. The match is going the same way, except that you will need more Fogs or more Teferis if they hit Teferi of the Duress. So I would say you're a favorite, but not a huge favorite.
And against someone like Helmut Sommersberger, he's been around the block a few times. I'm sure that he will have been thinking about this matchup as he prepared for this weekend.
So now, knowing that, oh wow, if it's game one, Vraska's Contempt in game one in red-black is not exactly the most common thing we see.
Not at all, and this may well be Sommersberger making a concession to the fact that there is this new deck in the format.
Yeah.
He does it before combat, so prowess is triggered. Plays Karizev, Skyship Captain, and when it's just a small attack, I mean, these Turbo Fog players, they don't really want to be playing Fog until an attack is lethal, or at least close to lethal, against even a deck like red-black.
So we have another Teferi, so that's pretty much what I said about afterboard games. Now the red-black player killed one Teferi, the Turbo Fog player has another one. Well, back to square one. Here we have it, Chandra at 6. So that means that Joao will have to either go off next turn or have to use a Teferi, the Teferi's minus ability to take care of Chandra, because he can't pass the turn with the Chandra ultimate.
Yeah, Chandra's emblem all of a sudden gives these red decks a very, very straightforward path to winning the game. They don't need to get into the red zone anymore. They can just go to the dome. Scrap Heap Scrounger being revealed off this Chandra Torch of Defiance. And Sommersberger electing to just deal 2 damage to Joao there.
Joao's hand is filled with the good stuff.
Oh yeah, that's what you want.
He has 2 time walks. He has 2 fogs.
Ragavan the Monkey joining Karizev there. And everyone's going for Teferi, and that's enough to prompt a Roop Snare on Chosa's side of things. The English player on the right of our screen there. Member of Team Axion now, and those guys, you see them in the yellow shirts at a lot of these European GPs, and it took Joao a long time to really crack into the very highest finishes at GPs, but just in this last month, he's found himself winning one, and that means that we will be seeing him at the Pro Tour.
You'd like to see this card when you're on the Turbo Fog side. 4 mana, 4/3 flavor text. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, this is not a matchup where you're too worried about creatures, assuming that you're able to consistently draw what you need. Khan's Temporal Sundering there, a nice one. If you're looking for ways of dealing with Chandra that don't involve having to tick down Teferi, that's pretty much the ideal one.
The first version of this deck had 4.
Wow.
But that made the deck a little clunky.
Yeah, I can believe it. You don't always have your legendary permanent in play.
Yeah, at first we cut 1, we cut 2. At the end we didn't have any left. Gabriel Nassif's version had 1 left in the deck.
Spring to Mind, a nice addition to the Turbo Fog list, getting additional lands, and at some point you end up being able to draw those extra cards.
Yeah, well that's very, very unusual. You actually never get to the 6 mana. If we get to see a Mind Blade in this tournament, I'll be very surprised.
Alrighty, well, for now it's a Nexus of Fate. There it is. Being represented just by a basic mountain there, proxied up. That at the behest of the judges, just to make sure that if there are foils in people's decks, that they're not easily distinguishable while shuffling, if they've maybe got a slight bow to them. Just sort of preempting that concern by having those mountain proxies. And Chosa here, he's doing everything the Turbo Fog deck could reasonably want to do. And he's playing it at a relatively turbo pace as well, which I think we can all appreciate. Yeah,
he drew another time walk, so he has another next. Oh, that's not the right one. Yeah, okay. two gifts of paradise on the same land, that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's not like a wild growth that grants each land the ability to tap for an additional mana. It grants each land a new ability, which is to tap for 2 mana of particular color.
He just wanted to point that all the lands enchanted are on the side, and he's going to untap these lands specifically. So untap. Yeah.
And this is enough for Helmut. We'd spoken about it a little bit in our first match about recognizing when it's appropriate to just let it go. And here,
Yeah.
2 planeswalkers, high loyalty, no point staying in that game. Helmut's seen enough and goes on to game 2. And now we're going to get a chance to find out how sideboarding in this post-Pro Tour world, where people have a bit of an idea as to how the Fog deck works, really does go.
So it's exactly what I said like a couple of minutes ago, maybe 20 minutes ago about this match. It's not going to be as boring as I thought it would be. It's not going to take that long for people to understand that they're dead or they're going to lose in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Might as well just go to game 2.
And this is really a sign of sort of knowledge of how the deck goes. Taking a Gift of Paradise with that Duress. Gift of Paradise, it's not an exciting card in and of itself, but once you've got Teferi to untap a land, once you're talking about a matchup where it is kind of a race for Helmut, being able to get rid of it early is pretty helpful. The fact that there are 2 Teferis in hand.
Yeah, that's also, yeah.
Doomfall gets hit by negate. Something was going to get negated, so I don't hate just dealing with that while you can.
That's another land. It's pretty good. Yep. So we have a next turn Karn, which usually works as a fog.
Yeah, it definitely warrants an answer from the aggressive decks. Chandra coming down, ticking up, dealing a couple of damage to Joao here.
With 2 Teferis in hand, seeing Chandra on turn 4 is actually a pretty good thing. It's only 2 damage a turn. It's not too bad.
And along comes the Karn Father. Sign of Urza coming along, and interesting there.
Oh, that's
generating a construct.
That would be to threaten Chandra, but that's really vulnerable to a Glorybringer, because Glorybringer would just kill both Karn and the construct.
We'll see whether or not that line of play ends up hurting Chosa here.
I think drawing here was just better. He needs to find lands to play his Teferis. That would be and Teferi can just take care of Chandra, so it's not exactly. He's still on 18 life, so he didn't need to go aggro on the Chandra.
It's interesting because thus far, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Raf, it feels to me like most of the lines of play that I've seen from the Turbo Fog players that get a little bit of a wince from you tend to be about the Turbo Fog player reacting too much to what the opponent has going on if it's not actually going to be lethal.
Yeah, we had this discussion about Bomat Courier. Oh yeah, we thought, well, some people think it's a huge threat because it comes out on turn 1, and after 5 or 6 turns, he has 5, 6 cards under it. And you think, I have to take care of it because it's going to be huge. But you don't, because it needs to be sacrificed, and under it, there need to be active spells like Duress, Doomfalls, and things that actively interact with your strategy. Wow. And here, that's like, Chandra does not interact with Joao's strategy right away.
So Vraska's Contempt, they're dealing with the Karn.
Okay, well, there was no...
I guess that given that was going to be coming along, it ended up being pretty good for Joao. But here is a Duress. Nexus of Fate. If you take it away, then it gets shuffled in. Teferi, if you take it away, there's still another Teferi, and you can't do anything about the Glacial Fortress. There will be enough mana for Teferi next turn.
So Helmut, I think Helmut has a Glorybringer in hand. So I don't know about that Contempt. He could have played Glorybringer and dealt with both the token and Karn.
And I guess that he knew that he was ticking up Chandra, and once he saw the Vraska's Contempt...
Oh, no, actually, yeah, actually, Glorybringer would not have... Oh, yeah, he would have taken down Karn, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So, as things stand, Duress is taking that Nexus of Fate there. So, I guess, given that you know that there's going to be Teferi next turn, the second Teferi is of minimal value. And Chandra, her loyalty ticking up enough that the first Teferi probably will end up having to deal with the Planeswalker here.
You know what I like about this play? Is that as casting Duress and shuffling Nexus of Fate in the deck, that gives Joao another chance to draw a Nexus of Fate, which is not a great draw here.
Yeah, I suppose so. That's a very reasonable point. And here we see Teferi dealing with Chandra now, before her loyalty proves too problematic. That Construct token not really troubling Summersberger's life total. The Turbo Fog deck, once it does start dealing damage, can deal a lot of damage in the mid to late game.
Oh.
As it stands, that Construct...
That Memnite, yeah.
Yeah, just gets eaten by a Chain Whirler. Like,
Oh, wow.
very rare in this matchup that Goblin Chain Whirler can do that much damage, but taking down a Planeswalker and a Construct, Helmut Summersberger,
Wow.
he's got to be feeling very pleased about that one. Yes, there's another Teferi coming along, but...
Oh, that was a great draw on... Oh, what? No, what? He didn't untap.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow, that's... He did draw the Fog, though.
Very unfortunate, possibly trying to play a little bit too quickly and not really getting everything sorted.
He could have traded the Fog for Teferi here and played the Charter Course on that turn. So...
Little misstep there from Joao. Meanwhile, Helmut Summersberger having to spend his time and efforts trying to deal with Teferi, and that ultimately coming to naught as Fog comes along to protect him. I guess that maybe given that there was the extra Teferi already in hand for Joao, it wasn't too big a deal, but...
Well, if Helmut has a Doomfall or Duress or anything, that would have been a huge deal.
Fair point. So along comes yet another Planeswalker. This time it's another copy of Chandra, Torch of Defiance coming from Summersberger here.
And keep in mind, that's the third Teferi, so if that one dies, there's only one left in the deck.
And how much harder is it to win with the Turbo Fog deck once you don't have Teferi?
Very hard. It is very hard.
The more I think about it, the more I kind of want to start referring to Turbo Fog as
Turbo
Turbo
Teferi.
Teferi, because that's kind of the big engine working so well with Azcanta the Sunken Ruin and finding your Nexus of Fate and untapping your land and just doing it all.
All right, so now we're seeing the big question. Is Anticipate better than Charter Course? At this point in the game, well, Joao needs a Fog. Like, he needs one. And he didn't have one, and he had a Charter Course. Anticipate would have actively looked for, dug another card.
And I find it really interesting that sort of we've already hit a point where these considerations are the most interesting sort of area to consider. Let's figure out what the best possible configuration is for this comparative new deck. Joao has had a pretty great set of draws this last turn or so. He's got the Fog now. He's got access to Khan's Temporal Sundering. Even though there's lots of action on the other side of things for Helmut Summersberger, most of his damage sources are creatures attacking, and creatures attacking are not going to be good enough relatively soon.
No, Joao is sitting pretty here. He has a cycling land as well. So he could dig deeper for a Time Walk or a Fog or another Planeswalker.
Yeah, Helmut Summersberger, it's got to be pretty sort of frustrating for him in that he was in a good spot. He finds a Doomfall off the top with Chandra here. And you can see him, we've already hit the point of, oh, I need to hold it on top.
Yep. So Fog and...
Yeah, had to discard the Khan's Temporal Sundering.
That was a good draw. Doomfall was a good draw.
Cycles his land.
Oh, Nexus of Fate.
Nexus of Fate, once you have a Planeswalker in play, just always feels pretty gigantic.
Oh, wow. And Azcanta as well. Search for Azcanta.
Everything coming up. Joao here.
No, you can't play everything. Well, I don't think you can. Oh, so that would be... Actually, he does. Yeah, he can. He can, sorry.
What a feeling.
So he plays Azcanta here. Search for Azcanta. Teferi's triggers on the stack. Tap for 2 mana. 6, 7, Nexus of Fate. That was a great turn.
Yeah. I mean, it's the sort of thing that Search for Azcanta on its own, a very good card. Teferi on its own, clearly pretty spectacular card. Nexus of Fate, a very good card. There aren't too many cards in this Turbo Fog deck that just even individually, before you worry about it, are bad, apart from literally the fogs themselves. And even the fogs themselves, once you pair them with a Planeswalker, become pretty exciting.
So Fog on top, I think I keep that. I mean, that's the safety net. If you pass the turn, you still have a Fog.
And we're going to get a chance to see that lovely interaction of using Azcanta the Sunken Ruin potentially more than once, thanks to Teferi's ability. But there was a nice draw as well.
That's going to be hard for Helmut to see another turn. Yeah. Baral is an efficient mana creature here.
Yeah, Baral's kind of a cool one that, to me, feels at its best in the matchups against control, where it means that a lot of your counter magic is just 1 mana counter magic, but also your fogs are now 1 mana fogs.
Look at Joao overpaying his Nexus of Fate.
So Joao here, he's essentially got it all. He's broken every code. He just needs to kind of find a way of actually winning the game. And the amount of loyalty that's on Teferi, it may well not take him too long. Immediately draws another Nexus of Fate. Only going to cost him 6 mana. And by my count, that means that he can also be activating his Azcanta while casting Nexus of Fate.
Now the Fog. Now you have to show it. Yep. Yeah, I think he still needs to draw.
Tick up Teferi.
Another land.
I mean, in essence, once you're able to do more than just cast your Nexus of Fate each turn, you're in pretty good shape. I mean, one of the things that you're doing is you're ticking up Teferi. At some point, a Teferi Ultimate might get interesting.
That's the luxury.
Yeah, being able to cycle
Cycle
your
Fog.
Hazel Pollen. And Helmut Summersberger here.
Yeah, and drawing another
Okay, so
another Nexus.
this is a Teferi emblem coming along here. From now on, whenever Joao is drawing cards, he's also exiling permanents.
So that means he will take care of Chandra. His Fog is actually gonna deal with Chandra. No, we told you Fog doesn't do anything in Chandra. Well, it actually does.
Yeah, just all you need is a Teferi Ultimate and then cycle. I mean, this might be the time that Mind gets interesting.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, but at this point, like anything is exciting.
You said you were going to be very surprised if you saw Mind get cast.
Well, see, it's not being cast. It's not being cast.
Very well.
Thank you, Helmut. Thank you for
been let off for now.
Thank you for not letting a Mind being played.
All right, so that is a victory for Joao Chosa there over Helmut Summersberger. The power of Turbo Fog not to be denied there in the first of our Time Walk matches. Time Walk matches in multiple different ways there, of course, taking lots of extra turns, but also that was not a live match. That was us getting in a little bit more magic after our main match completed. And of course, where possible, we like to show you as much magic as we possibly can. And I believe that for the first time in a few rounds, we're actually going to be able to get still a third match from our feature match area before we get to the end of this, our round 4. We are now in the pro show. This is where the players, anyone that had any buys, well, those buys have all now been spent. Everyone is in the exact same spot, which is initially try and make day 2. You want to try and get an X2 record or better, really, if you're going to have any trouble on top 8. And then on Sunday, that's when you start thinking about, well, can I string something together and actually make the final top 8 of this event? A little over 1,000 players, and in the feature match area, we're now going to be ready with some more of them for more Time Walk magic here. Miguel Ruiz-Diaz on blue-black mid-range, Peter Viren on Esper control, and this is them starting their game 3 with just 10 minutes left on the clock. So both of these players really going to have to get a wiggle on if they're going to get to a win here. 3-0 for now, and they don't really want to find themselves in the draw bracket, I can't imagine, even as control decks.
So no turn to play on Miguel's side. So no Siphoner or Bloodfast.
Duress meeting a negate here. Peter Viren valuing his hand, but a negate on the other side means that he is going to have to succumb to whatever's going on there.
I believe Search for Azcanta is gonna be discarded here. Yeah.
Yeah, Search for Azcanta, one of those cards that if you let it be, it can generate a pretty serious advantage over a long game, though it must be said that neither of these players is going to have the luxury of too long a game given the amount of time left on this clock.
Well, Peter is an experienced player, so he will know how to force the pace.
One would certainly hope so. And it's one of those concerns that I know, for example, that when it comes to playing GPs, I do slightly favour playing quicker decks because I know that not only do I want to make sure I don't have matches go to time, I also kind of want to make sure that I'm going to have a little bit of time to decompress between rounds. Obviously, if you're someone like Peter Viren, you're having so much fun during the rounds countering spells that it doesn't feel quite so bad. But Glimmer of Genius here coming from Miguel Ruiz-Diaz lets him scry a couple. He was in the fortunate position of the cards that were on top were the ones he wanted to draw anyway, so he immediately drew them while generating some energy.
Turning glimmers into inspirations.
Yeah, why not? Inspiration with a bit of energy on top could not hurt. Peter Viren on the other side of things. Currently a little bit lighter on the card drawing.
How much of a boost did inspiration get with that Glimmer of
Quite
Genius?
a lot there. So we can see a reasonable mix of things to take here. A couple of copies of Essence Scatter, one of them a little bit miscut by the looks of things. Liliana Death's Majesty, the most powerful card in the hand, and that one getting taken by Duress. But there's also Champion of Wits and a Torrential Gearhulk still in hand for Miguel Ruiz-Diaz, even after that Duress.
And the 6th land to fire up the Gearhulks.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty important, and it'll be something that Peter has in mind as he misses his land drop. He just looks on at the aggro Gearhulk coming along. I think he knew about that Essence Scatter, didn't he?
Well, might as well jam them.
Yeah, there's no time to start pussyfooting around here when it comes to closing these games out. Champion of Wits now coming down.
I mean, having a counter backup for the Gearhulk is going to take so much time. Might as well just play them. Just 1 for 1 end of turn. Doesn't cost that much.
And as it turns out, you cast your Champion of Wits, you draw into another Gearhulk. It all worked out. Just as you drew it up.
I mean, even if you didn't know about the Essence Scatter, he would still have played it.
Field of Ruin coming along here from Viren. Now, why would you end up using that there? I mean, I guess that if there's not clear targets, having a coloured land is a bit better.
No, I think Peter has a Disallow in hand, so it's 2 blue already. And if he draws a negate or another counter spell, he needs the extra blue mana.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. As things stand, the only creature on the battlefield is that Champion of Wits, and it gets the first point of damage in 20-18 here for Miguel Ruiz-Diaz in this game 3. And here comes Aggro Gearhulk, immediately meeting a Disallow from Viren. While it's only 2 points of damage coming through from the Champion of Wits, that's not too big a worry.
So it's interesting to see that Peter chose to play his Disallow instead of his Gearhulk, because I think he has an Essence Scatter in the graveyard.
Here comes Fatal Push on Glint-Sleeve Siphoner. That one that does not want to leave lying
another
around.
Gearhulk.
We are PG players. David, Pibu, and from Olbrecht.
Very patient here, Peter Viren, on his own Gearhulks. He does not feel the need to pull the trigger quite so much on them. He does know that there's an Essence Scatter in hand, though, on the other side of things. And it may be that his list doesn't have quite as many ways of dealing damage. At this point, it seems unlikely that we're going to see Miguel Ruiz-Diaz tapping out of mana anytime soon. A lot of mana to work with. Cast down, dealing with Glint-Sleeve Siphoner number 2. And Vraska's Contempt, Viren there, he was waiting on a piece of removal that could exile the Champion of Wits rather than simply killing it off with something else so that he could be sure that it was not going to come back thanks to Eternalize.
All right, so Peter with another counter in hand. Ugh.
Kitesail Freebooter. It's not an exciting creature on the battlefield, but its ability to tear apart Peter Viren's hand here may prove relevant. I think Viren can only really afford to be playing one
No,
spell in response.
Yeah, I think it can resolve.
So Torrential Gearhulk
Oh,
gets Essence Scattered. Disallow gets taken away, but there's
Oh,
another
wow.
Torrential Gearhulk in hand for Peter Viren.
oh,
here.
what? Really? Because then he can just Gearhulk and kill the
The Freebooter.
freebooter. Unless he has another counter in hand, but he has one more card. I mean, Peter probably knows about it. Upkeep? No. All right, I'm a little lost now.
Yeah, Peter being very, very patient on his
Yeah.
big spells here. Waits until end of turn to cast Torrential Gearhulk.
I'm not quite sure why Miguel took the
The Disallow?
disallow. Yeah.
Oh, the Freebooter can only take spells.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Wait, never mind. That's why.
There we go, we figured it out.
I'm getting confused. Never mind.
So along comes Glintsleeve Siphoner for Miguel Ruel Diaz.
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
To the best of us. Which is why you are here. And here we see the Vraska's Contempt coming along from Peter Viren. These boards staying pretty clear, and with the time ticking away, there's not a lot left from either of these players. Disallow dealing with Argyle's Bloodfast.
Another Bloodfest. Another disallow. Looking for action here.
Another Champion of Wits here coming from Miguel Ruiz Diaz. This feels like an area where the blue-black mid-range deck, just having rather more threats in it, may prove helpful as time ticks away. Duress forcing the Vraska's Contempt good and early on this Champion of Wits.
Ooh.
Okay, now we're talking.
This is the action.
Teferi comes along, +1. Vraska's Contempt. Couldn't stop the card draw, of course. There's no window of opportunity to play a spell between a Planeswalker resolving and using its first ability.
Glimmer. Genius.
See, that's
Looking
the full
for-
value on Glimmer of Genius. Put 2
Looking
cards
for-
at the bottom and dig a bit deeper.
It's almost the full value because he's not using the energy.
I guess so. You're correct.
Ooh, it's Teferi's back. It's now mini
Elaborate and
counter.
listen.
Another contempt. Peter's going to start to run low on win conditions here.
Yeah, Glintsleeve Siphoner has a lot of turns of attacking if he's going to actually win the game here.
Sorry, he's going to be using the energy. So full value on the Glimmer.
I like it.
You're right all along.
Just the old 13-turn clock.
The old one.
I think the real clock a bigger concern here. Supreme Will just to dig. Impulse Plus.
Yeah, Pit Scorpion was a faster clock.
Wow, that's saying something. All right, 2 points of damage coming through on this Glintsleeve Siphoner.
The Eldest Reborn?
I believe so. Each of these players kind of out
Alright.
of gas.
Is that extra turn?
We are now in extra turns. You can see that the pace of play, it might seem a little fast. It's a little fast for a couple of reasons. Firstly, these players are playing comparatively quickly so they can try and get through their match. But also, we're in Time Walk, which gives us the wonderful facility to be able to hit a partial fast forward on this game, just so that everything moves along at a brisk little pace for you. Teferi, Hero Dominaria, and Search for Azcanta coming down for Peter Viren. In a game that went to its logical conclusion, I would say here that Peter Viren in pretty good shape However, the fact there's only 3 turns left on this game, this is turn 3 of 5, means that I will be stunned if Peter Viren is going to be able to find a way of closing this game out.
But there's a point of like having the advantage on the board to ask your opponent for a concession.
Absolutely, yeah.
You don't want, if you play a blue-black mid-range, maybe you don't want to face control matchups the whole day.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't want to draw, and you know, you don't have any reason to concede except for that, or to be nice.
Yeah.
Because you were dead.
I mean, as things stand, it looks like this game coming to a draw. Though we're in extra turns now, and I would be stunned if one of these players could find a way of dealing the necessary damage to close things out.
Yeah, because there's no way Miguel can win this game at this point.
The Scarab God comes along to say hello.
Gear Hulk.
Yeah, Torrential Gear Hulk. There's bound to be an appropriate counter. That
Yeah,
enough for the handshake, and we have got confirmation that that is in fact a draw. Both these players, they will be in the draw bracket from now on. Now, the way that works, Swiss pairings in this tournament means that each round you get paired against someone as close as possible on the exact same points as you. So if you've won all of your matches, assuming there's someone else in the room that's won all their matches, you'll find yourself playing one of those people. If you get a draw, that means that suddenly you're going to be playing against other people in the draw bracket. Will that be good for those guys? Well, they've got the whole rest of the day to find out. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. There'll be more magic for round 5 of Grand Prix Brussels after these messages.